Welcome, everyone, to the Instrument Closet Podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Philippi, your local mass communications major, asking the students, staff, and alumni of the East Central University Band Program about their life and time in the world of music. Today, the podcast is featuring Rozzi Purdy, former East Central University adjunct professor for high brass. Rozzi is from Ada, graduating with a Bachelor's of Music Education for Vocal and Instrumental Music from ECU, and received her Master's in Trumpet Performance from OU. She was a public school music educator for 34 years, teaching all levels of band, choir, and elementary music. She was a former adjunct professor for ECU, teaching piano, trumpet, French horn, brass methods, and jazz improvisation. She is currently the director of music at First Methodist Church of Ada, as well as a private instructor for piano, trumpet, and bass, as well as performing jazz combos at various functions. Hello to the show, Rozzi. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good, Morgan. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty all right. All right. Time for the question.
Oh, no. But okay, go ahead.
Why did you pick music as your career?
Well, I grew up in a musical family. My mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother all played piano. So from an early age, I heard my grandmother teaching lessons in our home. And my parents say that after her kids would leave, I was probably age 3, I would go in there and play their pieces perfect. I do not remember this, but I thought that's a pretty cool story. And so as I started school, I began piano in the 3rd grade, and then band trumpet in the 4th grade. And I started lessons, of course, and it was a lot of fun. And I continued playing. And as I got older, I thought, well, this is something I probably want to do because I'm pretty good at it. And I had piano competitions as well as trumpet as I got into junior high and high school. And I just enjoyed playing. And then I sang in my church choir and did summer band at East Central when I was in the junior high and high school. That was a real learning experience. And I just decided I wanted to learn more in college so I could share what I learned to many students of all ages and to see them grow musically, because music's something that you feel that other areas do not have, and I could bring that out in them. And that's basically why we could make music together.
Yeah. So, pianist, vocalist, and trumpet player, how do you balance all of that?
Well, when I was younger, I didn't really sing. I actually sang better at one time than I played trumpet, which is hard to believe. But anyway, I kind of dropped the vocal part later, and I just concentrated on piano and trumpet. I did sing in college some, but then my piano skills sort of took over, and I was accompanying everybody and their dogs with private lessons or the choir, and then I got involved more in church music. But I sang in the choir. They always had great accompanists in my church here in Ada. And as I was accompanying, I learned a lot more, and then I decided, well, my trumpet playing, I had made all-state band all 3 years in high school, so I knew that would be my primary instrument as I started East Central, to concentrate on that technique. Of course, I was always playing piano and taking lessons and vocal lessons. That was hard when I had all 3 private lessons to practice for. Some of them slipped a little bit in my grade, but it was okay. And so I played in ensembles in grad school when I decided to go on and pursue a master's degree in trumpet performance. I was in all the ensembles at OU except marching band, which is my least favorite. But I was in orchestra, wind ensemble, jazz band, brass choir, and a very good brass quintet we had. So as I was in these different organizations, I played a lot of different genres of music, and doing that enabled me to be a better teacher to all ages because I'd had experience with so much different types of music through college, vocally and instrumentally.
Yeah. So, you usually do a lot of gigs over the years. So, what was your very first gig that you ever did?
My first gig was a jazz quintet gig here in Ada at a club on North Broadway. At that time, it was called the Fondue Chalet. And my theory teacher was the one that got me interested in jazz. He played bass, and we played for people that I don't think they knew it was going to be jazz when they arrived. But we played the entire evening, and it was quite fun and very educational for me. And I got paid $30, all in $1 bills. I'll I'll never forget that. But it was a great learning experience, and that was my start in a lot of jazz right there.
Wow. So, which instrument do you prefer to perform on, piano or trumpet?
Well, now it's probably piano because through the years, well, I just don't have many opportunities now to keep up my trumpet chops. But I like them both. I could say almost the same because piano, you've got your melody and chords and rhythms all at one time. And then on trumpet, you have your one melodic line, which can be whatever literature you're playing, classical or jazz. I just like them both. But my choice now, it would be piano, I guess.
Yeah.
So
So you mentioned teaching students. So which grade level has been your favorite to teach?
now that's a hard question, Morgan, because I have taught first grade through 12th grade in public school, and then I was fortunate to teach at the college level here at East Central. But I would say that every grade level has different aspects that keeps you on your toes, and you can't just pinpoint one because they're all so different. Elementary music, gosh, they're like little sponges. They absorb everything that you teach them, and it's just so fun to see them learn and grow musically and singing and instruments, like for beginner band. And then middle school kids, they think they know a lot, but you know how middle school kids are. They know a lot, but not what you always want them to show you at times. But they are so much fun because they're in between, you know, the elementary and the high school. And then as they progress in age and their playing abilities, then in high school band, you can experience more difficult literature, and they like that too. They don't sometimes know the music's hard. If you never tell them something's hard, kids don't know that. You just say, hey, let's try this, it's fun. And they like it. So you just have to like every area you teach. I don't think you'd be a good teacher, you know.
Yeah.
I know some people that don't do that, so.
Yeah, all the students have their different strengths and weaknesses, especially like throughout the ages.
They do. And when you get them so young, you can cultivate them into the areas that you see that they have and can pursue that even more.
Yeah. So how do you handle like a student that does have that great potential, but they don't want to work at it or they're apprehensive to it?
Well, you kind of have to just tell them sometimes, you know, you're pretty good. And this is what we can do if you want to pursue music as a career, or if you just want to keep playing your instrument in college to help you get a scholarship to help pay for your college, we can do this. And they don't know that unless I tell them, you know. And that way, if they don't practice, though, those kind of kids that have the talent, I don't know, because they don't know that they don't know, you know.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Then sometimes they catch on almost too late.
Yeah, that's true. I've seen that a lot throughout the years. The one experience I've had, I wonder if you've seen it before, having a student switch an instrument, either band or in private lessons, to help them out. Like either they sound better on that instrument or they would get more opportunities on that instrument.
Well, I think that's okay for students to play different instruments. I've had some do that, or for necessity, I would have them, like say a flute player, learn trombone for jazz band. And I had a trumpet player who could also play trap set, and then he learned tuba because we needed one on this one piece. And he was that kind of kid that could excel on anything. And the more they practice and play, that's what you want. It doesn't matter what instrument it is, because they're going to enjoy it. And I'm for that. Some teachers are not. I know that too. So, but yeah, because I play a lot of instruments, I guess that's why I lean towards other students playing instruments.
Yeah. So you like music for the sake of enjoyment. So how do you help other students realize that like you don't have to be like perfect to the nine? It's just about the enjoyment of the performance that makes it perfect.
Well, when you have fun learning it and it's not such a drill, they're going to have more fun.
Mhm.
And then if they play songs that they like, that helps too. And they're going to excel because they're going to play the same notes, there's just rearranged for a different song. And then when you pass out something that you know, which is better literature, and they might not necessarily know that, they're still going to be good at it because it's all the same thing.
Yeah. So dealing with ensembles as a whole, how do you handle rowdy bands, rowdy students?
Well, most schools that you teach at, they have you post your rules in the building, in your room, and the kids know the consequences if something happens. I never expected any problem from kids, and so therefore there weren't many problems.
Yeah.
But they knew if they messed up, I had them. I could nail them, whether it was on the bus, in the band room, on the football field, at contests. I said there are consequences if you continue doing this, and they knew I meant it.
Yeah.
There was no fooling around. But I like to have fun with them too, and they knew that when there was a time for fun and a time to concentrate and work on what we're doing.
So have you ever had to kick out any students at any point because they were just way too wild, way too crazy, or they just did not want to follow rules?
I'm sure there was. I can't remember any just offhand. I can kind of think of one I wish I had, but you know. But yeah, they're always those kind, and pretty soon they'll just say, "Well, I'm going to quit." I said, "Well, if that's what you decide, go ahead." And then you're really thinking to yourself, "Yes, he's gone." And that happens too.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything; they do it themselves.
So going to performances for a moment, have you ever had any performances that ever like fell apart, just a complete train wreck? And if you have, what was your takeaway from those performances?
Well, we never totally fell apart any time, but I do remember one incident at a school nearby that I was teaching at. The saxophone player sneezed into his horn, and it made a horrible noise. But the piece of music we were playing, it fit in just right. It was called Instant Concert. I'll never forget this. And I started laughing, and several of the band kids too, but we kept playing. I kept performing, and I tried not to laugh, but I couldn't help it. But the audience didn't know any of this was going on, which made it even more funny. And we made it through the song, and it wasn't really noticeable, but it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, just laughter control.
Just laughter control. And another time, we were at district contest, and the first chair trumpet had pickups into her measure solo. She was a beat late, so instead of 4 beats in that measure, there were 5. But the kids followed her and me to the T, and no one actually caught it. And
Really?
that was one of the best mistakes we could have made. I don't know why she did that. She had never done that before. But sometimes contest brings that out in you.
Just the really weird mistakes that you just never anticipate on making.
And never anticipate. That is correct.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that happen a lot in contest performances where it's like, oh, I know the section, it's fine, and I perform it, and something weird happens, and it's like, where did this come from?
Where did that come from? Exactly. Yeah. I'm going crazy stuff.
So what has been your favorite genre to perform in?
In my teaching?
Teaching, gig performances, anything.
Well, I enjoy, for high school band, I was fortunate to have a great band my last year at this school. My beginners were seniors this year, and even the year before, we played the whole suite in F for military band by Gustav Holst. I think I said that. One of the best band literature pieces ever written, and the year before we did the Chaconne from the E-flat suite, and we worked on folk song suite. I like all of those pieces, but I never told them how difficult like the whole suite was. They listened to it after we started working on it. I would never play a recording first because they had to learn to read it and play it. And they loved it. They said, well, let's do this for contest. I said, okay. So their senior year, and it was my last year at this school too, we received sweepstakes
Oh, wow.
and playing the whole suite, all of the movements. And that was just so neat for me as a teacher to be able to teach that piece, which was playable but a challenge, and they were great. And for me, I was in orchestra in grad school, and I liked the many of those pieces. I can't remember a lot of them. The Respighi Ancient Airs and Dances, some Tchaikovsky symphonies, the Lincoln Portrait. Just I like orchestra literature a lot, and that for me that is fun to play on trumpet. That's all trumpet.
Yeah.
So
So when it comes to orchestra, you're one on one, right? It's like one person to a part.
yes, yes,
So
and that makes it even more challenging, even more so than jazz band. It's one on a part.
yeah. So what do you think is like makes the orchestra one on one more difficult than jazz's one on one?
Well, you have to, as a trumpet player, probably count a lot of rest and still be able to come in one note pianissimo. And that is a little harder than just coming in on a pop note in jazz playing. The tone quality is still good tone quality, but you have to know all the styles of orchestral music and the styles which are different for jazz playing. So they're just both difficult, have their own difficulties.
Yeah.
So
So jazz band and improvisation, what has helped you with just improving on the spot, like no thought, just doing it?
I don't know if it's really on the spot or stuff that I've already learned and it's in my head, which is like the advanced computer of our world. And I pull out those licks and then I play them, then I put them back in for future use because of listening to so much music throughout all my years and then being able to just apply that on the spot, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
But I've thought about that a lot. I'm thinking, how do I know what I'm going to play next? I don't know that answer, but it happens.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's just like getting into that zone.
Yeah. Because then after I'm through, I'm thinking, did I play that? How cool. Sometimes they're cool, and sometimes it's like, oh my. But, it's a very interesting concept. Where did that come from? I had a person ask me that one time, how do you know what you're going to play next? And I just said, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's best just like to not overthink it and just do it.
Right. Overthinking has a lot of people somewhere else. I don't know where they are, but yeah, I don't try to overthink a whole lot.
So, in general, what has been your favorite piece to perform throughout the entirety of your career?
As a trumpet player,
Trumpet, piano,
whatever.
vocal, one of each?
Well, I think back to my sophomore experience in high school when Frederick Fennell was the all-state director. I really liked the William Walton Crown Imperial. That was fabulous. And of course, him as a conductor, there's no better. He was just a great musician, arranger, conductor. And I think that was the turning point in my life right there, is to become a full-fledged music person because of him. And vocally, I've always enjoyed Handel's Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
I've sung it and I've played the trumpet parts. Singing it gives me more pleasure than the actual playing the trumpet. And piano, I worked on a Rachmaninoff piano concerto. I think it was number 2. I really like that.
Yeah.
Just
That's a nice
beautiful,
one.
beautiful pieces. That and Debussy and Maurice Ravel. I like those pieces.
Yeah. So, going back to private students, what method books would you recommend for brass, piano, and vocal?
Well, for brass, being a trumpet player or all the brass instruments would use. It's an old school book, but it's the best. It's like the Bible for brass is the Arbin. I didn't practice near much as much as I should have in that book, but it's got a lot. There's another book I like called I Recommend, and it's a great book. It works for band methods, but you can also use it in private teaching. It's very good. Piano, it depends on what level you're at. I wouldn't know exactly how to say that, but the technique things of Czerny and Hannon are especially useful, and of course all your scales and arpeggios. And vocally, I don't know. I don't know an exact method book. I had one called it. I forgot what it was called here at East Central when I studied vocal, but that's not really my forte. I know what good literature is. I just have to go through it, but I don't have an exact method because I think the warm up is probably the most essential part in learning how to sing correctly and listening to students.
So vocal warm-ups, like specifically with diction, you think are probably the most important?
Diction and knowing where the singer's break could be from for ladies, chest voice to head voice, and then for men going to falsetto if they're a tenor, and how to compensate for that to make everything sound the same. That's hard, and that's one of the best things you can teach those kind of students.
Yeah, that's true. Would you also argue that the same thing for like trumpet, like their embouchure, how they do their tonguing, their releases, but like what would you suggest for those types for trumpet players?
Yes, all that's important, but the most important thing is the characteristic tongue quality that you would have to have, and if when you tongue or do those other articulations, you can't let that interfere with the airflow. So you have that supported sound all the time in whatever register you're playing, high to low, in the middle. Tone quality is the utmost thing. Yeah, one thing I used to use in my teaching was in tone and in tune.
Yeah.
If they have good characteristic tone quality, they're going to play in tune.
Yeah.
More than likely. I used a tuner some, but we used our ears more.
Yeah. What would you suggest for ear training in terms of tuning and blending for any of the instruments or vocal?
For ear training? Well, listening. Like I would say sometimes in band, trumpets, what do the flutes have right here? Well, I don't know. That was the answer. Well, I said, well, you're not listening then. You listen through the band to find out who has your same part, and then you make it work together. And flutes, can you hear the tubas? Or in any instruments, that's just kind of a high to a low. And they start listening better. Then I guess they first listen to their own sections. Then the sections kind of blend and everything works together to have that in tone, in tune sound for the whole band.
Yeah.
And if they study privately, you can do more stuff.
Okay.
But
so you at one point were an adjunct professor at East Central University. So what was your experience like being a professor here?
Well, it was very enjoyable. I kind of always wanted to teach at the college level, but never had the opportunity until I was nearing my years of teaching as I got older. But I got to teach a variety of things, which I thought was good. The first class I actually taught when I wasn't adjunct, Sky Garsha had asked me to teach sacred music class. And that was really good. I enjoyed that, and several people have become worship leaders due to this class, and that's because that's what they wanted to do with their major, which most of them were vocal majors or some piano. The other classes I taught, brass methods, that was cool. I taught another one called How to Be a Successful Band Director. That was really neat. I took them to my public school at the time. I was teaching public school a half a day and then adjunct a half a day. And they could see it besides just hearing me talk about stuff. And they had a ton of questions, which is the only way to really learn. And that was good. And then I also taught here at East Central piano, jazz improv to several students, horn, and some trumpet lessons. So I could do a variety of things, which I was glad they could see that I could do those things.
Yeah.
because it opened up more venues for the college to have more students participate.
Oh, yeah.
So that was really nice. I enjoyed it here. Then one more thing, Morgan. I got to play in the jazz band. I played piano in the jazz band, and then we had the newly formed brass band, and I played the solo cornet part in that, and it was just outstanding. So that was a highlight for me.
So, one last question. How important to you is it for students to get out into the music field, like during college and even post college, and like just like getting experience, just like one off gigs or like being like auditioning? How important is that for you?
I think it's important if those type of people want to really do it. They have to work harder if they're going to audition for orchestras or any type of job that would require an audition. Uh, but if they don't, I think they should continue playing their instruments and have fun with it with community bands, either around, I don't know, there's several in the state here in Oklahoma. And I think that's a big plus. Or play gigs. That's what I do all the time. I mean, I'm still using my talent and the things I enjoy, and you don't make a vast fortune at it, but it is fun, and it's not about the money. It's about what you get out of it as a musician.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, that is all the time we have. Thank you very much for starring on the podcast today.
Well, you're quite welcome. Thank you for asking me.
This is the end of Season 0. Tune in for Season 1 of The Instrument Closet later this fall, and thank you all for listening in.